Who's hot? Who's not? Fab on Sunday for week 7. All that and a bag of chips. It's time for Dingers.
This is Dingers, way more than fantasy baseball. We keep it real when we talk and knock it straight out the park. Let's see the stats, what's the average draft position? What kind of plays you making? Check the wins above replacement, check the lineups and the points. This I gotta see, what's your path to victory? Are they aiming for a dynasty? Get points going head to head, please don't do me no favors. We're always watching waivers, ain't no minor league, this is major, yeah. Dingers, let's go.
Welcome to Dingers, the only fantasy baseball podcast for smart people. It's not just Drew Smiley that wins you championships. That's why week in and week out we're delivering tips and strategies to help you live that straight up OG lifestyle. As always, joined by Robbie Baseball. I'm Tyler Childs. What's happening tonight, everybody? Welcome to the show. Robbie, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for asking, Ty. How are you?
I'm excellent. You know, sun is shining. We're allowed to do pretty much anything except for everything up here in Ontario.
Absolutely.
So that is a fantastic use of time. But yeah, it's been nice to get out and get some sunshine. Did some hikes this weekend, which are always
nice,
super thrilling. But you do it. It's fun.
Yeah, it's good to be outside. I spent all of yesterday cleaning up boat trailers. Very exciting. And one of them's I'm keeping for my boat that I'm all redoing and souping up. The other one is for a trailer for a boat that I'm gonna fix and then we're gonna sell, and then we're just up a trailer, which my wife's not real keen on right now. So I'm gonna get that one cleaned up.
You guys were going camping, right?
Yeah. She's like, what's this one for? Where's that boat? And I'm like, oh, that boat. I gave that boat away. But we're up a trailer so that I can try to trade it for a larger one and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, right now I'm just going to clean that one trailer up and then sell it. It's the one we used last year. It's good, but it's missing. I used 4x4 chunks and put pool noodles on top. So it didn't damage my fiberglass boat, but it still damaged my fiberglass boat because the bunks that I had to get when my wife had said, spend no more money on your boat stuff. It's been way too much. It's going to cost $100 to get all those brackets and everything. So now next year, now we're here, I'm going to do it. And I've fixed up a canoe and have it now up for sale. I even post on Twitter because I'm excited at Robbie Baseball. And Ray and I, my boy, we went into the little creek behind our house, and it goes right underneath the road. And we went back and forth through that little tunnel, 15 times today. And he just loved it. All the spiders hanging up. And it was, good day today for us. So anyway, and you can find us at Dingers Pod, before I forget, Ty, and you at Tourney Boss. We are live on the YouTube, on
Facebook and Twitter.
Facebook, Twitter. And if you are J Mealy 26, I'm live right now, so I'm not answering any more of your questions. So like we said, hit us up at Dingers Pod and we will happily walk you through all of your trade queries and things like that. So
or ask live on the show. You can comment on any of the live streams on any platform, and we'll be able to pull the question up here live on the show. So make sure that you're doing that and get into it right off the hop here. So before we have any further ado, let's dive right in.
Oh.
Who is hot is what we're going to be covering tonight.
What?
But in order
I'm
to
thirsty.
do that, pause for a segue. A long time ago, someone decided to put stuff in glass bottles. In some of these bottles, they put juice or milk, and that was stupid. Today, only alcohol and a few other products remain in the containers from the gods. It's time for beers and bourbon, because good advice only comes in a bottle. Ooh.
Boom.
What do you got?
So my wife, because she got her day today, because I had my day yesterday, she went out and about to get different things. And look what I get to drink tonight.
Ooh. Tell me that's a whiskey.
Yeah, it would be cool if it was. It's a premium lager brewed with rye grain.
Interesting. I just thought it was one of those like mixes, because I remember how I had those bourbon mixes before, and they do those with the whiskey,
Yeah.
and cokes and different things. Like, I need to find me some more of those bourbon things now that it's summertime again.
Well, my wife said to me that she wanted to go and get that Pink Whitney, which is a big drink here in Canada. And she said, it was always sold out last year, blah, blah, blah. So she wanted to go get that. And I said, well, if you're headed to a liquor store, then pick me up a variety. So I did take a picture of all the different varieties I now have. Not a single Waterloo dark amongst them. So anyway, and this is nice. This is nice.
That is, yeah. I'm on water tonight. I am skipping the drink. I had a couple with a friend last night.
And I was on water all day.
I had the Doug Ford pops, as they say. So,
buck a beer.
Doug Ford, yeah.
The most popular guy in Ontario. That's our premier. He is not popular right now. So I decided I was going to switch a hat every time we did one. We did a segment or something. So I'm going to switch to New Hampshire. Nice. Take the Blue Jay one off. I did start tonight with Colorado Rockies, but it looks like the Colorado Avalanche one. It's the, new old. Anyway, so we only have 2 bits of news worthy to tell everybody that's off the hop. Pujols is a Dodger. That tells us more about Bellinger. It tells me more. Yeah, it tells me more about Bellinger and the time frame that they'd like him to come back, and that they probably just discussed something with Pujols beforehand. And then the other one is Ethan Hankins, Tommy John. This is a Cleveland high school drafted SP. This sucks. I've heard more than one prospecty type place already dial back. So, and I get it. I mean, we have to dial back too, as we'd had a conversation, or I had a conversation on Twitter. Ty, I don't know if you had seen that, where I've just been getting a little somewhat annoyed at seeing a lot of the guys who are paid to write for sites and do different things, and they're doing their updates and they're moving guys up and down in dynasty rankings, like way too much. Like we have to take dynasty with a huge grain of salt, but they're ranking like it's redraft, and guys are flying up charts or being dropped down. And I just had a private conversation with one of the writers about it, because I said, what's up, man? You gotta tell me, because we get the wonkiest questions, and I feel like it's from someone like you who says, Byron Buxton is like the 85th best outfielder, and then you get into the midpoint of May where he's now hurt again, and he's 15th. What's going on? Tell me why that's okay in Dynasty to do. His value didn't go up. Yeah, his value didn't go up in Dynasty at all at this point in time, because everyone who's played long enough will be like, you know what? You can take him. Take your Buxton right now, because it's not going to happen all year. So I had, this one conversation, and it was very cordial. It's, that's one of the things that you can do when you DM somebody an honest question. But then I posted something. Yeah, you can do it. Wow. I said to them, I'm trying to get a grasp on it, because I feel like it's not the first article I've seen or the first tweet or whatever, because there are people who like to just tweet here's my prospect list for this team, or here's my position rankings, or whatever it is. And they just post so much information that I need more context to it. So when I require it, I will ask them, because that's the easiest way to do it. And the guy said, I appreciate that you did that. And I said, well, I podcast, we're Dynasty. This is what we do. So what you write will eventually affect us, because we'll get a question from somebody who reads you and listens to us, and we want to be able to help them. So basically what they said was they try to go by 3 years ranking. So they feel like if they're rising right now, it's only going to continue to go, which essentially told me they're just ranking like it's redraft. And I was a little annoyed. But I appreciated the conversation, and I don't need to say the names. It doesn't matter. They write for a site, they podcast, whatever. It's somebody who's putting the info out there, and Ty and I do our due diligence to see what's out there so that we can act and react accordingly. So when I saw, certain guys flying up 50 plus position spots and rankings overall climbing way inside the top 50 that I didn't think were right, and they were, swearing by for Dynasty, and a lot of prospects just flying up the chart. It's not right. It's like Daniel Lynch owners. I'm a Daniel Lynch owner in some, I guess, I've talked about that before, maybe not saying owners. I roster Daniel Lynch in a lot of spots. I'm not happy with him right now, but I wasn't before the season saying Daniel Lynch is going to get 22 starts and, this, that, and the other is going to happen. I'm pacing out over 5 years. What do I expect from Daniel Lynch over the next 5 years? And it wasn't a huge 2021. So I'm not too worried. I don't like what happened. Obviously not. Who is a Daniel Lynch owner who's like, that's fine, I'm cool with that, but I'm just going to put him back in my minors, and I'm not going to engage in trade talks. But it's everybody else, right? It's getting a little crazy. So with Ethan Hankins, it sucks. And he's getting a big hit back.
Why people listen to us, because they know that we measure things differently, and if you want
We
out of
use
box
centimeters.
solutions, yeah, if you want to use out of box solutions, you go use out of box platforms, right? And that's what it is. There's no need to point these guys out. Like if you're an avid dynasty player, you know that these sites do this because you should at some point have been frustrated by the ranks yourself. So let's get into guys that may or may not have frustrated owners in the past. And I think the first one's a great example on our hitter list.
That was a perfect.
Yeah. And I mean, it's an interesting one to talk about because I think everybody knows there's some talent here, and that's Jock Peterson in Chicago. Left-handed power bat, seems to come alive in the playoffs, but has been very mixed results throughout the seasons of his career. Last 7 days, 12 hits, 2 runs, 3 RBIs, no stolen bases. But, this is a nice change, contact, right? Like, if we can sustain this, like the power will be there, right? Hopefully he doesn't pimp job any warning track shots anymore. Hopefully you learned that lesson on whatever Sunday Night Baseball or whatever that was last week. But yeah, Jock Peterson's a guy, he's going to get out there and play in Chicago because their outfield is trash. And so there's time for him to have, and pretty much is a must start against righties. I think that's a no brainer. Like if you own Jock Peterson, he should be in the lineup against righties every single game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And the move for Jock is we're going to mention, a former Cubby shortly. And the move for Jock is almost like maybe he could have just went where the other guy went and the other one stayed with the Cubby anyway. But I'm liking Jock right now. And where we're having trouble with outfielders, he might be somebody probably owned in Dynasty, but as far as redraft goes in your Yahoo leagues, 24% owned, somebody who could be out there on your wire. And in a smaller league, possibly was, because he could have been drafted and dropped. Jonathan Daza with Colorado, 3% owned right now. Last week has just been fire, 517 average, 4 runs, 3 RBIs. Looks really good, but that's Colorado, right? Because where are we on homers? None. Stolen bases? None. So it's pretty empty, but if you're looking for somebody who can up your average, the guy who, like me, who owns a lot of or has a lot of Nick Madrigal everywhere, those are the guys who you think, Daz can maybe be a safety guy. Now, when Madrigal has like a double header like he did this past week, goes 0 for 7 and has a week where he's not batting, I think he's like 240 this week or something like that, just crushes me where I need him to do those things. But it's okay. You get another guy maybe like this for next week to help to cushion the blow. And maybe you sit Madrigal if you got another 2B until you wait till he turns it around with a 3 for 4 night or the right matchup.
Well, and Jonathan Daz is not going to hit you 30 home runs. He might give you 15, batting average 270, 280 if he's in the lineup every day. Probably not likely, but thing to note, as we've talked about a lot on this show, is Colorado's going to sell some guys. So that playing time is going to be there. A guy that has a real shot towards playing time. Injuries are helping him get extra bats now, but he will grow into those regular bats in Arizona. That's Pavin Smith. Ironically, 18% owned, hitting the leadoff. Like there should never be a leadoff hitter in any format 18% owned ever. That just shouldn't ever be a thing. Yeah, like that's not allowed to happen. Not as many hits as the rest of the group, but 7 runs scored in the last 7 days, right? 2 RBIs and a stolen base. He's hitting leadoff. That's the big note here. Same with Robbie Grossman in Detroit, who's 38% owned. He has had a little bit more success over the last 7 days, hitting 360, 4 runs, 7 RBIs, no stolen bases, and a dinger.
But
also, Robert?
On the year for Grossman, 7 stolen bases. So believe it's going to come back this week. And that's just a great thing to know that you can bank probably rest of the season 10 more stolen bases. Like he's got 7 this early. He's running. And as we talked about last week, Ty, he was running for a job. Right. He was like kind of handed the job. And, since then, like Victor Reyes has been sent down with Detroit, and Badu's hitting or has hit like the 4th outfielder stretch. So like Grossman's in, but he also knows it could be taken away.
Akil Baddoo did go 4 for 9 last week in limited at bats. So
limited at bats.
Akil Baddoo is going to be the 4th outfielder as he should be, right? He's not ready for full time. We've talked about that already, so no need to kill it. But, Grossman has been running, which is nice to see. A guy that's not been running, never will be running, is Kyle Schwarber in Washington, 42% owned, 292 average over the last 7 days, 4 runs, 7 RBIs, 3 dingers. And this is all on the back of Soto's return to the lineup, right? So he's seeing better pitches. He's hitting right on top of Soto. And so lots to like there because they've had Trey Turner hitting too, have they not?
I don't know exactly where Turner's been in line. Honestly, Washington's one of the teams with lineup construction that I don't look at very much. I just look at results, and I keep getting confused as to, they're good, they're bad, and
it's funny how many people have completely forgot or written off the Washington Nationals. Like, there's lots of talent on that team. Like, their bullpen's good, their rotation's good. They've got 3 superstars, right? Like, there's lots to like on that team.
And because you brought up Washington, I'm just going to say Austin Voth has done some decent things as a bullpen guy when asked. Just when asked.
We need that guy.
Okay.
That's going to be our new on-screen thing. We're going to get the picture of that general guy from Star Wars that yells, "It's a trap." And that's going to be one of the things. It's going to happen. It's coming to next week's episode. I promise you that. Jonathan India is back from injury in Cincinnati, 14% owned, has kind of, hit the ground running since his return. 3 runs, 5 RBIs with the stolen base and 2 dingers. Now, I'll say this: like, I'm pleasantly surprised by Jonathan India. I didn't think the power numbers were going to be there the way they are. I thought the contact would be there, and I thought he was a little overhyped on the power. So I'm still concerned that power is going to flatten out over time. But for the short term, as long as he's hitting dingers, you want to own him. Just watch for those power numbers to fade. That's my only concern.
Yeah, I was just saying, and before you move off of him, think about this, because we've had the injury 1 month ago when you're looking at the stat lines, 167 average. And then 2 weeks ago, after coming back, 217 average. And then last week, 357. So he's seen the ball very well right now. And 2 of his 3 dingers on the year came last week. So as Ty has alluded to, don't think that's just something you can count on, you can bank on. But if we want to say we've got 19 weeks left in the season, it might be safe to say 15 would be maxi for that. And that's an 18 home run rookie season. That's good.
Might even be 20 if he's getting full-time at bats the rest of the way. Like, if he stay healthy, he might get to 20 in Cincinnati. It's a ballpark that allows it. A lot of games against a bad division. So there's reasons to like him to maybe go a little bit above what his normalcy would be. And before we go on to the next one, just want to remind anyone listening that they can ask us questions live on the air. Just go ahead and enter into the live stream the questions that you have, and we will showcase them here and answer them quickly for you. So
did you, Ty, did you do the fun graphic for FAABulous? Did you do that tonight?
I can use it now that if we want to show.
Why don't we do it after the hitters? Let's do it now.
It's too late. We already did it. But let's jump on a guy that also gets that about that exact amount of time on the screen, and that's Brad Miller in Philadelphia. 3% owned, 333 average over the last 7 days, 2 runs, 1 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. He's a stopgap, right? Like, he's going to be a lefty off the bench and a night off kind of guy. Like, Didi's out right now, and I mean, he can field a ground ball, so I'm shocked he's not in the lineup because that team cannot field a ground ball to save their life right now. They're a disaster to watch. But, I mean, we've seen this out of Brad Miller. This is not like a surprise that Brad Miller has a hot stretch. He has them regularly. Right. They just don't last. So I don't know if you feel differently about that one, Robbie.
No, I'm right there with you. Like, this is the perfect injury replacement at the position. So you've got somebody who is out. You want to replace them with somebody who you will very easily discard. Brad Miller's a pickup and an absolute positional stream and drop. Like, that is cut and paste. Boom. Brad Miller's the name to use.
Yeah, I agree. And a guy that has been lighting the world on fire over the last 7 days, Josh Fuentes in Colorado, was an early off-season favorite and thinking he was going to get the playing time, especially towards the end of spring. Once Colton Welker was caught cheating / got sent down before, naturally Colton Welker's on pretty much every single roster I have.
So not at all bitter about it.
Yeah, it's fine though, because it's rebuilding its depth for later. I'm fine with that. But 364 batting average for Fuentes, 4 runs, 11 RBIs, which is a big number, 2 home runs. Really, really impressive stuff out of him in Colorado. This is what I think they were expecting. I don't think it'll stay flat this way for the rest of the season. But you know what? Like, he's got a clean run at playing time now because he no longer has Colton Welker on top of him. And I would expect that Colorado probably uses that suspension to suppress that contract another year.
Oh yeah. Well, because he's not even getting to play. Like,
but it's 80 games, right? So he's not going to be out for the full year, but they're going to certainly use it because they're going to fire sale. Like, I think everybody and their brother knows the fire sale is coming. So they have no reason to rush Colton Welker now that he gave them the perfect excuse. So last on this list, Brian Reynolds in Pittsburgh.
Just before you go off Fontes, because I know there are going to be people out there who are like, well, you know what? I don't know, because it was a really weak start. You're right. It was a really weak start. That's why his average right now is 232 on the year. But the last month, he's been a 284 hitter, and that's in 74 at-bats. That's regular playing time, like Ty alluded to before. I would absolutely give him the opportunity. Now, 2 weeks ago, he did not have a lot of at-bats. What was it, a dozen at-bats? But every other week, he's been 20 plus. So get you into some Josh Fuentes, and in your dynasty leagues, whoever owns him has probably been disappointed. And if it's points, because he's not hitting a ton of dingers, the point totals are going to be low. I doubt he's over 3.15 points per game. And depending on the team that you're going to, he could be on a second or third contract even. So this is a buy now opportunity in dynasty for somebody.
Owned.
Yeah, for somebody who you can just like lock and load rest of the season. And as Ty said, if there's a fire sale, that's only going to mean Fuentes gets more playing time, not shipped out.
Exactly. And heading into Pittsburgh, Brian Reynolds, as I said, 42% owned. So this is a little bit on the higher end of guys we want to generally be covering, but it's still a guy that's just a forgotten man. He's hitting 3 in Pittsburgh, right? It's a bad team, but there's garbage time stats to be had here, and Brian Reynolds is going to collect them. And keep in mind, we're days, weeks away from seeing Brian Hayes back in that lineup, which makes, exactly what we talked about with Kyle Schwarber, a scenario we might see here with Brian Reynolds. 3 runs and RBI over the last week. He's hitting third, right? And frankly, get him now before Hayes is back, because those numbers will probably likely jump once Hayes is hitting in front of him in the 2-hole. You might even see Hayes hit 3, right? If Reynolds continues to put good bat to ball, might make more sense for them to position that lineup that way.
And more in, and whoever's making it work in that top half of the lineup, right? Like Reynolds is supposed to be the heart of it, as well as oh my God, who did you just say that got hurt? Why are names escaping me? Thank you, Brian Hayes. So that's supposed to be it for them, right? And they're supposed to punch it up in him. And then Phillip Evans has been injured now. Hopefully when he does come back, he's just back to a version of him, a slightly better version than what we last saw. But it's a good pool of hitters to draw from, Ty. And even like to your point, like acquiring in Dynasty, you can go ahead with the Brian Reynolds talk now and have a serious conversation. I know I had with in the Real Money Auction League, I had a talk with the guy before, and I said, I'm really interested in him, but I have no idea what kind of runs or RBIs he's going to be able to get, because that team is going to suck. And when you get through that first 40, 50 games of the year, which is right where we are right now, you start to see what the team is actually looking to do. There are those overachieving teams like the Red Sox, who we know are going to come back down to earth. But then there are the other teams like San Francisco, who we certainly expect to regress. But is that going to be a slow regression over the rest of the year? Or is that going to be like, trade deadline and they bottom out, try to trade everything off? So you can look at a lineup like Pittsburgh and say, well, they can't get worse. So maybe this is a good time to actually get Reynolds.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think now's the last time you're going to have to buy. So that kind of covers it for the who's hot players. We have a couple more players of note that we'll loop back to here. But Robbie, I'm going to let you run with the 2-start pitchers this week. And we can get into that, which I know this is your bread and butter.
Yeah, so this is for everybody who's been saying, hey, 2-start pitchers are way more valuable to me than just straight streamers, but I do want to know, I want to know both. So I'm going to rhyme them all off, then we're going to circle back just so you can get an idea of names so you can check in your leagues. Everybody on this list outside of one is owned in less than 40% of Yahoo leagues. We lead off with Logan Webb, San Francisco, who's going to see Cincinnati and the Dodgers. Then we've got Taijuan Walker, who is the 64% owned dude. Atlanta and Miami are his matchups. John Lester taking on former Cubby and Baltimore. Then Alazoy with the Cubbies, Washington, St. Louis. Hap is taking the White Sox and the Angels. That's dangerous. And he was not good last week, but prior to then, Hap has been getting it done. Keuchel will take on Minnesota and the Yankees. Jordan Lyles will be taking on the Yankees and Houston. Not ideal. Henches, what is it? Henches with Cleveland. It's okay. We'll get a little more into. I'll try to get the name right when we circle back. He's taking on the Angels and Minnesota. Patrick Sandoval is back and owns nowhere.
Is he?
Don't you take that graphic down.
I did it.
He's taking on Cleveland and Oakland. John Gray, who we're just going to keep mentioning until he's owned in over 50% of leagues. He's at 47 right now. He's taking on San Diego and Arizona. So not ideal, but none of it's ideal for him this year, and he's been able to do well with all of it. Casey Mize taking on Seattle and KC, and then Kikuchi taking on Detroit, and he might get a second start, and if he does, it'll be Sunday, it'll be against San Diego. If not, it'll be following week, and we'll do it all over again because he's only 41% owned right now. So Ty, when we circle back, is there anyone in particular that kind of like hits you in a good way, hits you in a bad way? Logan Webb for me hits me in a very desperate way. If I am terrified of what's going to happen, but I need strikeouts, Logan Webb's my guy. Last week, he had a good start, 1.5 ERA, but on the season, 4.74. He does have 2 wins, but 43 Ks and 38 innings pitched. And then the whip is, the whip's 1.45. So that's a bit of a concern. Who's a guy that you can throw on this list? Maybe we'll work our way down or whatever.
Well, and I think this one is one that I think a lot of people are gun shy on. So I'll be the leader on this one. And I think Casey Mize for me, Seattle KC, like it's such a lottery ticket. And you have to know that, because both Seattle and KC can be both very good and very bad, all in just a quick little moment of time. But if you look at what Mize has done his last 3 starts, out against the White Sox, 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, had the quality start there, 3 earned, followed up against a very good Boston team, just 1 earned, quality start, only 3 strikeouts, and then 4 strikeouts against that Kansas City team with just the 2 earned. So, you're starting to see that progression for Casey Mize. Like, we all knew it was coming. And so I think the matchups are worth the risk. I don't love a lot of the other matchups here. So that for me
so
would
that's
be the
part
one
of it.
That would be the one that I would line up for. I'll be honest, Alzolay just keeps surprising me. Like I keep expecting him to just go away, and he just keeps being there. So I don't really know what to do with him. Like, it's one of those ones where I've been out for long enough. I might as well just stay out and be right when he does blow up, right? Like,
and then just wait. He'll have one bad start, and
I'll
we'll
be right
record that night. Yeah, but his whip is under 0.9, like decimal 88. Awesome whip, totally. and K to innings pitched, 36 Ks, 32 innings pitched. I mean, this is great, and he's one of the guys who. The Cubs were the Cubs were able to get his clock rolled back from last year. So it was thought that he wouldn't be a big part of the team at all this year, but he's here now and performing. And this is awesome to see. Now the ERA is 4.5, but we're talking about a rookie. So this is the right time, right? Because the stat line in 5x5 doesn't look pretty, but it looks fine, right? 1 win, not helping you much. 4.5 ERA, not helping you much. Now to the dum-dums, to the guys who are not using 5 categories to their advantage, they're going to look at those 2 and they're going to think, yeah, that's not really it for me, right? Because you're not getting saves. So now he's a 2-category guy, but you have to think about the long term here, right? You've still got the huge advantage with K's. He could very well continue to rack them up. And then the whip is so important because it allows you to take chances on riskier high K guys in the future who might have an issue where every so often where they walk 4 dudes. I'm trying to think who it was that walked. Somebody good walked 4 guys yesterday when I was looking at box scores, and I was like, wait a second, was that right? And that doesn't matter now because I can't remember who it was. But anyway, maybe it was Nola, whoever it was. I saw it and I thought that's not the best performance. But another guy for me, Ty, will be Sandoval, and I'm bringing it up because I need to. Right? This is the hill, and I will die here. I'm going to die on the hill. And Sandoval will have, as we sorted out beforehand, definitely have 2 starts this week because Angels have a doubleheader on Thursday. And
they have like 8 games.
Yeah. So Sandoval's getting 2 starts this week, and he's 0% owned. And in dynasty leagues where he's owned, go do it right now. Or when you're listening to this, pull over, blinker on, pull over, check out, see who owns them. And you could probably throw some type of outside the top 150 type prospect at the owner, and he'll say, thank you, good Lord, because he's taken up a roster spot for me. You can get him for this week and see what happens, because in 7 1/3 innings this year, he does have the K count back, which was supposed to be his thing last year, and he's got 8 Ks. The whip is high, but it's also 7 1/3 innings, right? So 1.5 whip and then a high ERA. Again, this is like reliever stuff, right? When a reliever gives up a couple runs, it looks horrible. They need the rest of the season to make themselves right. But here's an opportunity for Sandoval to possibly pitch 10 to 12 innings this week. If it goes well, 12 innings would be the peak, I would say. And he could right the ship for himself for a season and then walk into next week possibly with a job in that rotation. Possibly. I think Jose Suarez is also going to get a start this week with the Angels, just to like continue on my hill to die on, guys. And he's somebody else that could have that high K count. I need to check his matchup. I don't know if he would be Cleveland or Oakland in this scenario. He also could be doubleheader. And keep in mind, the doubleheader is 7 innings. So you got to expect the teams to want to push those guys a little further into the game. And Sandoval will not be a part of either.
Yeah. Well, and LA is the only team in baseball with their own branded dumpster for their rotation. So yeah. Anyway, John Gray is a guy that was a forgotten man this offseason, right? We've talked about it before on the show. 47% owned right now. Criminal, right? That's just criminal.
Yeah.
In your redraft leagues, guys, let's get it together.
People are not realizing that he's doing it in Colorado as well, right? Like they talked about, he's been bad on the road in previous years, but the Ks are back too, guys. Yeah. The Ks are back, and the whip is 1.17 in 46 innings. Like this is a better John Gray.
Well, and our good friend Dave over at Rotosaurus posted an interesting stat that he's tied for the lowest barrels in the league with just 3. He's only been barreled 3 times, and 2 of those were Bryce Harper. So in the same game. Right?
My wife's barrel counts higher than that. You know what I'm saying, Time?
Jesus.
Wait, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, I don't know if you meant.
Wait, hold on.
Came out the way you wanted it.
Yeah, I should have saved that for the Domingo Hermann conversation we're gonna have soon.
Yeah.
Oh,
so yeah, John Gray's definitely, guys. Interesting risk here because you have San Diego who's banged up, right? But San Diego is still putting some runs up, just not at the level that we would have expected them to. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, John Gray, the right time to play him.
Yeah, very well could be the right guy of this list to start, but he could also just be in the middle. He could be mediocre, 2 quality starts. He's going to get you probably minimum of 5 2/3 in both outings unless he gets absolutely lit. So might be the safest bet from that perspective. So that kind of covers that list. Is there anybody else you want to cover, Robbie?
No, I was going to say something that we do need to check in on, though, is Kyle Freeland, because Kyle Freeland was supposed to be out 4 to 6 weeks. We're at 6 weeks. Yeah. I've heard nothing. So I'm gonna do the work on that. So for our next podcast or live stream, I will ensure we have an update from him. So as I've said before, one of the things that I love to do is I listen to any type of a reporter type third-party podcast for MLB teams. It doesn't have to be fantasy related whatsoever. I just want to know what people who are paid to follow the team are saying about the team. They also have a lot of that information. In Toronto, we have Sportsnet, so you could follow At the Letters is the one for the Blue Jay guys if you want that inside information. But a lot of their information is highly repetitive if you ever listen to the games. So if you follow the team, you don't need to listen to those kind of things. But the Colorado one that I was listening to became so ridiculously repetitive early in the season where they just seemed to be against the team that I had to stop listening. So I'm going to have to tune back in now to sort that out. And then maybe I'll just DM the guy. I DM'd the guy previously and asked him a couple questions. One of the reporters, he got back to me. So
I'm just picturing them as the groundskeepers from Major League. They're still shitty.
Well, I know that they were upset about the trade, the Austin Gomber trade. Well, I mean, come on, you got Austin Gomber. You have, and all you had to pay was your franchise player and $50 million.
Yeah, like
you do the deal, except
in the history of baseball.
No, it's not. It's not the dumbest. Anyway, okay, so we've added, in addition to the names for waiver wire guys with low ownership percentages, this is Ty's hot
guys that
list.
Are red hot.
This is Ty's hot list.
Oh yes, Domingo Hermann is a guy that is definitely aforementioned. He's back. He's SP3 in New York, right? Like he is 100% back and has been looking great. So that's a guy you need to own. Josh Fleming is a class.
Fleming.
Yeah. Don't call me Patrick Sandoval. 14% owned in Tampa Bay. The 1 win. Just been quietly dominant, right? Like just quietly
it's been
plodding
awesome.
along.
Awesome to see because everybody preseason, it was like he had no trade value this offseason. I know, like, we've got a few trolls, Roto Ronnie, one of them, but there were a couple people who were like, why are you interested in Josh Fleming? And I said, look at Tampa Bay do it with the pitching. Everybody's different. Everybody serves a purpose. If it was just the same, like, what is it, down the dick? If it was the same guys throwing it down the dick over and over, it would be gobbled up.
Yeah, it
But
just depends on your
Fleming,
format, though. Because
yeah, but Fleming can,
right?
no, he's not a striker, but Fleming can do it the more categories you have. So that makes him more of a complete pitcher. So we used to talk at length. It was always 8x8, right? We counted walks for the pitchers, saves and holds. We tried to give a more complete picture. Well, we've tried to narrow it back down to the 5x5 because that was requested. Hey, I play a lot of 5x5. I know you're 8x8. Would you consider? And we listen, right? That's why we're doing it. As well as points. People have asked us if we wouldn't mind doing a points version of this. And we absolutely will, because I think doing it and saying that this is how many points you can expect to get out of somebody, which we've referenced before, that I think it was Perez last week. I said, if you got 32 points or something like that, you should be happy with that, 36 points. But anyway, with Fleming, he's one of those guys that can come in and just like not screw you over. If you're in a bigger league, that's important, right? Plug and play guys like Fleming right now are important. Brad Keller was all over the map earlier this year. I dropped him in, what was it? Like our listener league. I think I dropped him in, and somewhere else, because I couldn't do it. I didn't have the bench to do it. And I know, Ty, you were saying you were shocked when you saw his ownership today. Do you remember what it was? Was it single digits or close to it?
It was 9% own.
Yeah, which like
that's criminal.
Keller should be more than that. And Keller is on a team who, although KC has taken a dip now, they're 5 games under 500, I think, at this moment, 17, 18 wins right now. The promise is still there of them doing better. And this is to like everybody who is prospect loving. And then I can't remember who it was that was like trolling. Like, remember when everybody thought Bobby Witt should be up to start the year and he's batting 220 something in Double-A. And I'm like, yeah, like, thank you.
And he has 3 runs or less. Yeah, 3 runs or less in his last 4 starts.
Brad Keller, we're talking here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So guys that have written this righted the ship. Anyway, that was why I just wanted, because for every Pablo Sandoval, there is a Josh Fleming in my life. Just so we all know, the ugly roster will have Fleming, Sandoval, Julio Urias, Shohei Ohtani, and then just like a bag of crap. So there are guys that I mix and match. But anyway, sorry, Ty. Luis Garcia was the next guy up, 18% owned. He does have a win this year. And as you had said, Ty, it's the Angels. The Angels are his not Venom. What's it? Kryptonite. That's the one.
Yeah, and even in his starts against the Angels, it's not that bad. They're just still building him up, right? Like he's a somewhat reliever-heavy guy that they didn't expect to be required as a starter this season, that they've been building. So, outside of his 3 starts against the Angels, where he's allowed only 2 runs, 3 runs, and what's that one? Another 3 runs, right? So he's got 8 runs allowed against the Angels, and those are his worst starts, right? So the Yankees got him for another 3 as well. And his ERA is just 3.34, but he hasn't pitched past 5 2/3 yet. So, if you do the math and the compression over the rest of the season, like that number's going to be sub 3 probably if he continues this. So he's been good. If he passes the eye test for me, a guy that's just 18% owned, and I'm a fan. So Houston is sneaky good.
I just wanted to say, because we talked about it last week, Rich Hill in full effect. We said it last week. He is still only 14% owned. This name's not on our list, but because we mentioned it and you just said Luis Garcia building up, right? 5 2/3 right now. Well, what did Rich Hill do last week? But 6 2/3, got the win, 9 Ks, no earned runs, and the whip, 0.9, which has now for the year still got him looking interesting, ugly, but 41 Ks in 38 innings, 4.26 ERA, whip now 1.08, and 2 Ws on the year. So Rich Hill, if he's sitting out there, go get him, guys. Go get ride it while you can. And I love your note on the next guy. I really want you to deliver
but
it.
Just real quick on Rich Hill, he's also 20 straight scoreless innings, so that's of significant note on the Rich Hill front.
You see him rolling. Oh, that's a new
song.
So
Drew Smiley's next on the list here, 17% own, 1 win. He's a guy, right? He's do not get excited about Drew Smiley, but is a guy that has had a good start in a row. and is capable
A good
of,
start in a row. That's
is
a
capable-
thing.
So he's capable of maybe stringing one of the next 3 as a good start as well. So nothing to get super jacked up about when it comes to Drew Smiley.
I would say wait till Acuna's back too, Ty, because then Atlanta should be rolling, right? We talked as well last week about, I think it was on Sunday that Acuna got hit. I don't even know if he played this week.
Well,
like we've said before, we don't concentrate on the highly owned superstar stud dudes because that's not going to win you a championship. You're not going to trade for them. You're not going to, you either own them or you don't. But it's the rest of the league that will do it. And if Smiley has a full Atlanta lineup, that's a lot of help offensively.
Agreed. He's back-to-back quality starts, 1 run in 12 innings. So lots to like of the last 2 starts, but just be cautious with Drew Smiley. Like there's a belief that he's made the change. Atlanta clearly made a financial commitment to him, believing that was there. A guy that I like a little bit more, and I'm seeing a little progression here, is Shane Mcclanahan. I watched a good chunk of the game yesterday against the Mets, and is starting to develop this little bit of a cutter to go with the slider and the elite fastball, which I'm a fan of. So, those are the things that I look for, is that little development. He's still getting built up. He got to 5 1/3 last night, I believe. So definitely a guy. And Robbie, just classic. Ronnie coming in with a troll. Because that's where he's at. Just wants to be a troll. So if anyone that wants to troll Ronnie, here's how you get Ronnie. Feel free to troll away. But it's definitely Mcclanahan is a guy that I think is definitely a dynasty play, right? For sure. Worst case scenario for Mcclanahan is elite closer, in my opinion. Like that's the downside. I don't think he's that. I think with the cutter development, he's in Tampa Bay. Like it's pretty much a mandatory development of the changeup. So I think that's coming too. So I like what's ahead for Mcclanahan.
Well, the last guy here, Ty, that you've got on the list, and I love him, and I try not to talk about these guys as much as I can, but it's Chris Flexen with Seattle, 9% owned, and Flexen's been a good starter. Now, you wanted to talk about his start against Cleveland. I want to talk about his season and the fact that on the year, his ERA is under 3.5. The Ks are not what we want in a SP3, but in an SP5, it's perfect. 23 and 39 innings. It's damage control, right? A 1.36 whip, not great, but it has been better. The last start, 5 2/3, was better. And I believe that we are going to see Chris Flexen be about this rest of season. I don't see the big blow up where it's a 6 ERA for, a 6 start period or something like that, and then he can't get back down. I think he's just going to toe the line. 1 start a week. That's what he's getting.
Great ad for deep leagues, right? Like SP4, SP5 type, like great guy to have rostered as a padding. Not a guy you necessarily need to start every time he's out there, but a guy that should limit the damage.
I think I've got at least 8 shares of in the 14.
You're flexing on your flexing shares right now.
And in one league, it was really funny. In a 20-team league, I like the flexing on flexing. At a 20-team league, I drafted him in our 8th round or something, where we do the first, I think 3 or 4, whatever the first number of rounds are. It's all rookies. Must be a rookie. Can't be an international signing like Flexen or whatever. And then it got into the 3rd round, and my pitching's horrible in that league. Like Brad Keller's my best pitcher. Adam Wainwright's next. So I'm transitioning that team. But anyway, I picked up Flexen, and then right after I picked up, the guy's like, "Oh, he was my next pick," and we're pick 1 something in a 20-team league. I'm like, "Your butt hurt on that?" I said, "Well, you can always trade for him," and he's like, "I'll give you my next pick." I'm like, "Yay, dynasty guys!" He valued him so much. He already had 7 opportunities to pick him. And then, plus all these rookies where he could have, I don't remember. I don't think he was rookie eligible, but whatever it was, he had at least 3 rounds earlier that he could have taken the guy. And as soon as I take him, he's like, "Oh, that was my next pick." But Chris Flexen's been perfectly fine.
He's been, very good. I watched his start the other night against Cleveland, the Kalenic coming out party. Not the debut, the coming out party, which was the next night.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, there's stuff there. I like the hook moving forward. So Ronnie actually is coming to the table with a real question here. So, real world problem / Voit, Bregman, Machado, Cruz, Aguilar. Who can't play there?
Aguilar.
Who are you sitting?
Aguilar.
Well, and that's the question. And he follows up with this. So Ronnie just telling the story here, like it's a beauty. This is why we love Ronnie. Comes to play. So real scenario though, like Aguilar, it's a tough one, right? And
It's ceiling.
but I think the answer for me is really simple. Like, do you need power? Yes or no? Because you're not getting that with Aguilar, right? And so you have to just play the matchups with the other four. Like, who's likely? Like, Machado's going to hit 2-hole this week, so you can't sit Machado. Cruz has been cold. Like, I think for me, Cruz would be the one that I would consider. Are we getting to the end of Cruz, right? Is this the end for him? Voit is the most, power heavy guy in the group. So if you don't need power, Voigt's the sit for me. You can't sit Bregman. Bregman's the for sure must play out of those four. And then Machado's after that, and then Voit and Cruz in that order for me right now.
Well, it's strictly ceiling, and on everybody's best week, they can all match up. But on everybody's typical week, Voigt's going to have more dingers. Bregman's going to be a more complete player, as is Machado. Cruz is power heavy. Like you said, Aguilar brings the least to the table if everybody's average, and that's the problem. But like, that's a good problem. If you're weekly, that is one of the pleasant things you'll have. However, what will also happen if you're weekly and it locks on you is Monday, one of those guys is getting hurt. Yeah, for sure. And then that's how, and whoever you don't sit will get hurt or will get hit on the hand, like Acuna. And then I just told myself, I'm like, I'm not making a play to replace Acuna. I think I'll be okay. And then Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and I'm like, holy crap, this is going to affect my week. And then now I'm looking Sunday night and I'm like, well, in this league where I'm down by, 2 home runs and 4 RBIs, and that would be an Acuna week. So now I'm going to lose because he wasn't in my lineup. And I didn't think it was worthy because he didn't go on the IL. I didn't think it was worthwhile to do it. And just like in TGFBI, I didn't make a play last week to replace Luis Robert strong enough, which I know that was done weeks ago, but I had other guys shifting things around then with Jeff McNeil. Now this week I didn't do anything about Acuna because I've been concentrating on pitching. It's one of those things where you sometimes just have to sit down and make that crappy, tough decision and say, even if they're productive, I have to go with what is going to be healthy and ceiling over ho-hum steady. Because we're still at the point in the year where you can make big moves in a single week in all of your category leagues, all of your roto leagues.
Keep in mind too with Nelson Cruz, like if there's any NL matchups this week, which I don't know if he has them or not, but he's going to be on the bench. So that's the other thing to keep in mind.
We did talk about Cleveland this weekend, so I'll just scroll up to see. Cleveland is the Angels, and Cleveland is Minnesota. So they're AL. Yeah. Oh, right. Sorry. I'd seen Minnesota.
White Sox and LA.
Yankees and whatever you said. It's AL. Words. Words.
So finishing off tonight, we want to just go through some players to watch. These are guys that either nobody's thinking about or are forgotten men. So just a quick list here to think about. Anthony Santander is starting to near the timeline where he's going to be heading towards rehab. 44% owned. So a guy that should be owned, especially with the devastation to a lot of outfields right now. Ian Happ, similar, still nursing, running into Nico Horner.
Nico Horner's back.
I just want to point out one thing with Ian Happ is that they probably kept him on the DL to try and teach him how to hit again. He has been in the Kevin Biggio, I can't hit, so I'm just going to walk train. And I think he'll come out of it, right? Happ is a good enough baseball player that this is just a slump, and this could be the break and breather that he needed to reset his mind. So that's why I put Happ in here, because I think a lot of people have exited on him. And I think you need to re-enter. And similar to that, Victor Robles has his average up to 243. Everybody was out on Robles and is probably still, he's 39% owned, right? So that's a guy that you definitely want to take a look at. Ryan Mountcastle's starting to show signs of life as well. He's not all the way there yet, but if you wait too much longer, he probably won't be there. So for me, that's 44% owned. Might have to buy him in a lot of formats out there, but if he's available, he should be rostered over the next couple of months, in my opinion. Especially as we get into the summer, power is going to jump, right?
Yeah, and I was going to say, and on the point with Mountcastle, he's owned in dynasty leagues. Of course he is. Yes. But he's also now vulnerable because whoever owns him will not be playing him. I know I'm not playing him where I own him. I think the 2 shares I have. Would you throw
this on him, Robbie?
I would throw a buy on Mountcastle. Yeah. And
if you're an owner, it's definitely the Hodor. Yeah.
It's like you'd forgotten to use them tonight.
I had to get it in there.
But I would also say or argue that a guy like Mountcastle, when you approach the owner, you say, look, I'm wondering what the buy low is on him. And if the guy's like, no, I'm not going to sell him. Okay, that's fine, right? Sometimes an owner can appreciate that you'll say, hey, I'm just curious if you want to kind of, part ways. And if he says, well, I'm going to want a top 100 back. I will say this. There was, Ty, you're in the league. It was a real money auction league. Somebody put in our group chat, I'm going to sell Hunter Green. It looks like he might be up soon. And they wanted somebody who was a couple years away. So I said, I've got Luis Rodriguez, Dodgers outfield prospect. I will offer you 1 for 1 because
and I was in on this trade as well.
Oh, okay.
So
What was your offer?
I put Gabe Rodriguez in
Gabriel
Cleveland.
Arias.
Gabriel Rodriguez, the other one.
I
did have Arias in that league. I traded Arias already in that league. So
okay.
I told him I think Brocco's overrated, right? Is what I told him.
He asked me when so that was the eventual thing. He took Aaron Brocco, and I had said to him, look, I stare death in the face when it comes to hit or miss pitching prospects. I've got Ohtani in that league. I've got a lot of guys who are not supposed to do what they're doing. Fleming, I own in that league. Aaron Savale, I own in that league. And they're all guys who can just beat it. They're better than they're supposed to be. Jose Urquidy, I've got in that league. Jorge Lopez. I mean, I'm not bragging about Jorge Lopez after the weekend, but either way, Ty, what I was getting at was the fact that, like, if somebody said to me, yeah, like I'm not going to, I need a top 100 type guy. When they're there, when they're playing, like Mountcastle is playing, Luis Rodriguez may never play an MLB game, or he could be, he could be Juan Soto in the future. Well, I'm willing to get all the value that I can get out of Ryan Mountcastle if I think he can contribute to my team in a positive way. And in the meantime, I will have a draft where I will be able to pick up a college hitter, pitcher, whatever I think is going to work with me. I will then have 1 or 2 more years before Luis Rodriguez ever plays MLB baseball, where I can continue to build upon that. I will always take a guy on the cusp if my roster allows it that can help me win a championship or stay in it, this week and next. Then I will take that long shot. Now, I do also dabble in the J2 and, did all the work to try to find scouting reports and things like that ended up on robbiebaseball.com, which you can check out and see the work that was put in there to find the J2 guys, but they're all project guys. And this is the perfect scenario where one of those guys may have tickled his fancy just enough that I could get him. Or in 2 years, the next Hunter Green that comes up, right? Injury riddled. Now he's healthy, looking like he's on the cusp. Hopefully I will be able to make that trade happen in 2 years. But sorry, what were you going to say about Brocco that you thought overrated?
I just think he's a little overrated. I think he's getting hyped up with the middle infield in Cleveland. I think it really is. They're becoming the middle infield factory, and I think he is a byproduct of that hype train a little bit. And I think that's the thing you got to be cautious. And we've talked a lot about this with middle infielders over the last year or so. I haven't seen enough of him to say that that's a bad trade, but I am concerned that it's a good trade because Hunter Green's a little bit more, if he can stay healthy, of a lock to be a MLBer. And that's what I had told Brent. But anyway, let's finish up here because we are getting a little long in the tooth.
Sure.
And we have one last to cover here. And this is just a guy that you need to get ahead of his call up. And that's Alec Manoa, who is going to be coming up in the next 14 to 21 days in all likelihood.
Assuming he has
effective
starts. Could be Tuesday.
Yeah. He's on the rotation for Tuesday, like in AAA. And he is 12 scoreless innings out of the gate. He's the frame to go.
I think 17 Ks, right? 17 Ks, no walk.
It was something
like
very
that.
good. Yeah. So he's been very good. His stuff's good enough to play. It's just whether the Jays feel he's ready to handle the moment. Everything I've seen from him, like demeanor, everything looks like he's ready. So,
and I do have an update on Kyle Freeland. He has had a rehab start, and it's going to continue. It looks like he's got at least another 2 starts minimum before he's up. So that would put him to the end of May, but 1% owned in Yahoo. 1%. Okay. So if you want a guy who can quality start you, there it is. Alec Manoa, maybe the same thing, right, Ty? Maybe the high K, maybe the breakout pitcher this year, because it ain't Daniel Lynch.
Nope. And he's definitely going to have a shot to win a spot in Toronto. The only other guy in Toronto to keep in mind is Hatch, who is getting close to rehab as well. I think they've got him up to 3 innings stretched out already. So I think that's a guy that could be relevant. And this is going to be Thomas Hatch's chance to win a rotation spot. Might be his only spot or only time to win a rotation spot. So just another guy in Toronto to watch. That's part of that injury squad that they're running out there. So other than that, Robbie, there's a lot going on. We're starting to see some of these things moving around. And I think next week we'll probably get to talk about some guys that have been dropped. And I think that'll be fun to talk about as well. Just guys to watch out that would fall onto this list that people have given up on already. So that's what I'm excited about. But I think that's a great spot to leave it. And until next time, it has been Rob and Tyler on Dingers.